Good morning. Welcome to Milk Slinger. My name is Jennifer, and today I am making an Appenzeller cheese. This is a fast cheese. If you are short on time but have a lot of milk, make this one. We're getting 6+ gallons of milk every morning. I'm getting a little bit weary of making cheese all the time, so I was like, yes, this is the one I'm gonna do. It is basically like an Alpine cheese, but it will be washed in an herb-infused tea that has b.linens in it to get a fragrant, pink, sticky rind. First step is to heat up 8 gallons of milk to 90 degrees. Yep, we're at 90 degrees. This is the clabber, about 2 cups. See how solid that is right there? Well, it's just split. It even has a clean break. So cool. So starting clabber for tomorrow, about that much. Top it off with milk. Leave it open a little bit so it can breathe. So approximately 2 cups of clabber. Oh yeah, hang on. We've been getting little bits of plastic floating in the milk from the buckets. The edges fray. No, that's fat. That's butter fat. That's a piece of plastic. Oh, and I see a fuzzy. Drives me nuts. So now clabber. Let this culture for 1 hour. It is time for the calcium chloride and the rennet. I make my own calcium chloride, 30% solution, and I get rennet from New England Cheese Making Supply. I'm an affiliate for them, but if they want to like up the game and give me even more support so that I can have more materials to show you more things, I'm here. Make me an offer. So, calcium chloride first. The recipe comes from Luella's book, Kitchen Creamery, Appenzeller, and she just calls it Zeller. I added a quart of store-bought whipping cream just to boost the fat content a little bit. So because of that, I will be adding calcium chloride. A teaspoon and a little bit more maybe. I'm gonna add that first. One thing to know about rennet is that you do not want to dilute it with the water for very much time in advance. You don't want to dilute it before adding it to the cheese too much You don't want to dilute it too much in advance before adding it to the cheese. If you let it sit around in water, it gets weaker before adding it to the milk. The rennet calls for 1.5 teaspoons for 8 gallons of milk. I am only going to use 1 teaspoon because I am figuring out that the milk is setting up very well with just a teaspoon. And I think too much rennet might be part of the reason that I have had issues with cheeses that just aren't as creamy as I want them to be. So that's my theory. I could be totally wrong though. Calcium chloride first, followed by the rennet. Slow it down. It's setting up so thick. This stuff is strong. And this is supposed to culture for about 25 minutes, I think. It's not very long, it says. And I see a floaty right there. That is like fat. Why am I having fat in there? It's almost like the milk is curdled a little bit first, which is unusual. Did I do something wrong? We'll see. It's a fairly clean break. So we're gonna cut it with the whisk. All right, I'm gonna let this rest for about 5 minutes to heal. So now it is time to start stirring the curds. The instructions are fairly quick with this. Stir for 5 minutes, just to break it up. And then you raise it to 115 degrees over the course of 25 minutes. So that means I'm gonna have to like raise the heat a bunch just to keep it going at that pace. You don't want it to exceed that amount of time. Once I get to the 115 degree mark, that's when you take off 10% of the whey and you replace it with water that's the same temperature. It's a very lightly washed cheese at a higher temperature. Let's go. Gonna take out a little bit of whey first before I start, just because it's gonna get splashy. In the beginning, the curds are just kind of, soft. When I say they're clumping together, they're not really clumping together. They just haven't been differentiated yet. That's a little bit different than clumping. So I'm digging down in, looking for the bigger pieces. The curds are broken up pretty much, and they're looking kind of loose and creamy. I bet this whey would make really good ricotta, but I'm not going to bother today. Turning it on to low, setting the timer for 25 minutes. Probably every 5 minutes or so, I'll turn the heat up to medium for a minute or two to help get this heat going. I'm at 92 degrees. So this is gonna get cranked up and have to be stirred rather intentionally to get to 115. By the way, this is feeling much looser. They are now differentiated. They are not clumping together because I am stirring, but I have to keep my hand on the bottom to make sure they do not stick down there. I am just stirring rather energetically. The curds are not sticking together. They still feel very soft and kind of mushy. They do not feel like they have a rind on them yet. They're just like that. They're not cooked at all yet. I have it above medium heat. When I heat my milk in the morning, I have it on high. and it takes a while to get this pot of milk up to temperature. So I'm kind of almost wondering if this needs to be on high heat right now. 10 minutes left, and I am at 101-ish. I'm going to keep the heat up and keep stirring just like this. I have this cranked up almost to high. I have 5 minutes left. I'm at 107. My hand is tingling. This is quite hot. Can you see the different colors of my hands? That tells you how hot this is. Curds feel juicy. They do not feel rubbery or boingy yet, which I am intrigued by. Usually at this point, they're much more like pebbles or like hard bits of sand. These still feel very tender. You can see they're squishy and soft. They do not feel like they have a rind. And all those high temperature cheeses often feel so dried out and tough. And this feels much better to me. Maybe it's the speed at which I'm raising the temperature. I should taste this too while I'm at it. It's good. I have 3 more minutes. It is uncomfortable. Switch into this. 109. I think we might make it. 3 minutes left. Look at that, y'all. It's 113.5. 25 minutes is up. I feel like I've just been running a race. I'm just going to go another minute or two to get it there. Ding, 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 115. Cutting the heat. That was kind of wicked fast. And that felt really good. Let's check out the curds. They still feel juicy. They're getting a bit of a rind. Let's do a squeeze test and see what they look like. There you go. And they crumble apart. They feel juicy. I'm impressed by how juicy these feel. That's wild. Yeah, they're done. So now these are supposed to rest for 3 minutes, set to the bottom of the pot, and then I'm going to skim off 10% of the whey. Taking off 10% of the whey, which is approximately 3/4 of a gallon of whey, I'm guessing. And this is my water that is 115 degrees. So replacing it, it's pretty accurate. And now I'm supposed to stir this for 10 minutes. Actually, I'm gonna take some out right away because that's just too full. Here's how it's knitted in the bottom in the 3 minutes. You can see it's just kind of come together, but it falls right apart. And I'm just kind of coming through and just doing this to it down under. This hurts. It's really hot. Then I'm going to switch to the spoon for the 10 minutes. These are feeling drier now. They've lost their wet feel. They're very sweet and squeaky. They're delicious. The curds are pretty small. They're clumping together a little bit, but not much. They're rubbery and they're sweet and milky and good.
Ready? You have your strainer?
Not yet. Stop. Grab the strainer. You're holding it? You got it? Don't pour yet. Don't pour. Nicholas!
It's fine. I'll stop it when stuff starts to come out.
It's good. Stop. Okay. Get lids for both of those. Hand me that, please. That's how much curd I have. I thought it would be less, but it's actually a good amount. Look at that big old cheese. It'll settle pretty quick, but I almost could have stood to use the thingamabob. Oh, I'm spilling it on the sink. Shoot. So you just fold a single layer of this cloth over top, and I'm going to do low pressure for the first half hour or so. Just a wee bit of pressure to get it going. The way that's coming out is like clear, so we're good. We're not pressing it too hard. All right, it's sunk down to right here. So now we're going to flip it, press for the next 8 hours at 30 pounds, low pressure. So I'll flip it several times during this, but going to keep it at low pressure until bedtime. So it's a little bit lumpy, that's why you're smoothing it out. Back in. And that's right at 40 pounds, so it's not very hard. This is just like a finger width of distance right there. So as this shrinks, I will have to put another follow roll on top, but right now it's okay. Cheeses are looking yellower now because of the grass. 7.5 pounds, 7.8. Brine for 6 to 8 hours for a 4-pound cheese, so it's 24 hours for an 8-pound cheese, which means it's only 3 hours per pound, so I will go till tomorrow night. This room is quite dry, so already it feels really dry. And that's just slightly wet. I don't know if you can see that on my hands. It'll be dry soon. It has now air dried, and I'm supposed to make a tea and steep it. So this tea is first made by boiling herbs in water. So it's a cup of water. It calls for chamomile, it calls for marjoram. I don't have those, so I'm going to use a teaspoon of each of these. Oregano, I'm gonna add a little bit extra because I'm not doing chamomile. Rosemary and thyme. We'll just use it all. Oops, wrong burner. There we go. Bring that to a boil. All right, it's at a boil. So I'm gonna cut the heat and let it sit for 10 minutes. Oh, it smells very herby. Now let this cool to room temperature, and then we'll add the rest of the stuff. So to this cool tea, we're gonna add a teaspoon of salt, a half cup of white wine. I'm using rhubarb red raspberry mead, which is a honey-based wine, homemade, if I can open it. Oh, crap. Let's taste this. It's good. I made it. Oh, that's lovely. I want to drink it all right now. So half cup, and then a pinch of b.linens. We're just going to take some on the tip of this. Is that a pinch? I have no idea. Sure, it's a pinch. Swirl it around. Maybe I'll do a wee smidge more. Just stir it to dissolve the salt. How does this even taste? I taste the herbs. Whatever. Cover and let sit at room temperature overnight. It says to store her at 55 degrees for a week, occasionally washing her down with a salt brine, and then you start the herb wash. I am just going to put her in for tonight. We'll start the herb wash tomorrow. Now the question is, where do I store this baby? You know what? I think she might be able to fit up here. Yeah. Sorry, there's a cheese. The cheese under the eaves. Whatever. Here's the tea. It's been sitting overnight. You can see a little bit of residue in the bottom. So I'm not going to do the bottom because that's what it's going to sit on. I don't want that to get too wet. When I picked this up off the top of the freezer, it felt warm on the bottom. So my hunch is this is not cool enough and I should put it somewhere else. So I'm going to flip it. Well, it feels really buttery, so that tells me it's a little bit too warm. Oh, it does smell herby and winey. Oh, I love the smell. It really does smell good. Very French. Oh, this smells like no other smell. It's so good. I'm concerned that it is too warm, so I'm going to move this into the cheese cave and hope it doesn't get all the yucky brown mold. It smells like feet. It's getting some white on it, and there's getting some blue on it. I'm gonna wash it all over today. Oh, there's too many cheeses. Hey there, I'm in the middle of making supper, doing a whole bunch of cheese work, making mac and cheese. You know, there's nothing like going down to the cheese cave and just grabbing whatever cheeses you want. I got cloth-bound Derby, I got a Sharp Jack, which I am not using because I didn't eat it, a creamy Colby. It's just like exotic. Here's the Zella. You can see there's condensation all over it. Oh, getting a little bit of blue on it. It's beginning to feel slightly sticky. Absolutely love watching this turn pink as it goes. This does not smell stinky yet. It smells really savory, sweet, and yummy, like a herby salad or something. Just a little bit on the bottom there. Look at her being all foggy and misty inside. Oh, she smells fine. She smells herby. Smell her, Caroline. You smell the herbs?
No, I smell the mold.
Nope, it's not mold. It's herbs. She's getting nice white all over her, a little bit of blue, which I will wash off or rub into the cheese, whichever. She's not feeling sticky or goopy, so I'm just gonna put a little bit on her. And then flip her and give her a nice little scrubby. Okay, that's a little bit soupy. I shouldn't put quite that much on, but it'll be okay. Hello, hello. I just brought up my Zella from the basement a little bit ago. In the last hour or so, she has turned white. She had some white on her before, but not nearly like this, which I find super adorable. There's a little pastiness right there. What's that about? She smells a little bit mushroomy, not moldy. And there she goes, back down to the basement. Getting sticky, but it's not quite slippy yet. That's what my hands look like. Such a treat. Oh, she's feeling more sticky. We're getting some good bees. Beautiful mix now, funky and spice. Sticky just a little bit, but not like slippery sticky. So the question I have is, at what point do I stop washing it? Because it is not goopy, I'm going to continue washing this until I note a change of some sort. Do you see all the moisture and the condensation? It's pretty wet in there. I think, what's that? Ooh, I don't know what that is. What's that? Oh, it's like, feels like wax. Drippies. I think I'm just gonna let this keep going and I'm not gonna wash it today. I want to see, does anything develop on it? Do I need to keep washing it to keep things off? Or will like Geotrichum candidum start coming up on here? I don't know. Let's just let it go for a little bit and pause the washing. I just realized that last time I said I was gonna let it keep going, but I noticed that gray mold is growing on it and I just don't want that. She's smelling different. She smells something, nice. Like the tea herby smell is diminished and it's just more, I don't know what, but I like it. She's going back in there. I'm not doing a thing to her. I think she's perfect. She's getting a little bit fuzzy. I threw out the brine. That was kind of my saying we're done with that. She feels like she has some give, but it feels firm on the outside. But I think it's a soft cheese on the inside. And she's looking a little mature, like she's getting some age on her and getting a little bit of character, a little bit of rustic texture. I like it. Okay, so the Appenzeller has been in this box the whole time. I'm gonna take it out of its box because I think it's stable. I think things are doing well in the cave and I wanna see what happens if it's out of its box. I still smell the herbs and I smell the mead. So you can see the top looks fine. You're getting some of that mold there and then a little bit of blue mold is springing up there. I'm just gonna wipe that off with my hands and probably smear it all around the cheese, but you know. And that feels a little sticky right there, like it's getting too wet in the box. So I think this might be a smart idea to be getting this out. I'm gonna set it back in the cave next to those two. So we'll see how Lady Appenzeller does there. Just doing her thing, she's doing great. She'll just keep her flipping. Right here's the Lady Zella, just hanging out, looking gorgeous as always, giving her a flip, that's all. All right, my friends, it is time to taste the Lady Zella. I have just been waiting and waiting, and now we're gonna do it. She smells not like much of anything. Brush her off. Look at that. It's beautiful. Oh, it smells delicious. It is super lovely. Look at that nice yellow, orangey color and the edge where it's drying out. So it bends. It's mild, it's creamy, it's smooth. It almost reminds me of a Buddha queso or a sweet Rockland. How am I getting all my cheeses to taste the same? That's not good. Let me taste the rind. Just tastes like basement fridge. At the edge, like before I get into the rind itself, I do taste the herbs a little bit. I do not taste b.linens. I want to taste just the very, very edge again. Yeah, very slight b.linen flavor. Very, very, very slight herby flavor. It is not a strong herby cheese though. It's a really good cheese. It's a fabulous cheese, but I don't know, I hate to say this, I don't know if it's any different from anything else. I spent all that time doing the washed rind. Did that even matter? I don't know. I mean, the rind is gorgeous. Like for prettiness, it's like a 10 out of 10, but I don't know if that impacted the flavor at all. It's very yummy. I don't remember the method. Let me look it up. Okay, so this is kind of a cross between like an Asiago, a higher temperature cheese, and a Gouda. It's been washed just a little bit. I guess you could say it does taste like a cross between the two. I do feel like there's a little bit of Asiago in it. The bendiness and just the flavor of it, it reminds me of that. And then the Gouda, the mild sweetness. But it doesn't, I wanted it to stand out. Like, I wanted to feel like it was different, and maybe it is. Maybe if I put them all side by side, I think this is different, but we should do a melt test. Okay, I think it's safe to say that it melts. Look at that pretty little curl it made. You really can't go wrong with toasted cheese. Look how pretty that is right there. So gorgeous. And you know, I have the rind in this, and it's really good. That's wicked yum.